Welcome to the Spiral of the Rose podcast with our friends Jess, Kelli and Bree.
Hello and welcome back to this 3-part series about discernment. Parts 1 and 2 will be linked in the show notes of this episode. And today we are moving on to part 3, which is we'll be talking about what to watch out for in spiritual circles. And when you are learning new things on your spiritual path, and how to take radical responsibility, and how important it is to take radical responsibility for how you act based on what you learn and what you come across on your journey. So let's dive right in. I do want to talk about like some specific, these ones are a little bit more concrete and a little bit more, they can feel more scary, like that fear feeling that we were talking about. And that is where, like, what are some signs to watch out for specifically, that are, they're just a good telltale that something is maybe not, I don't want to say not safe, right? Because depending on your intentions and your protections and all of that kind of thing, that you have in place, it may not be dangerous per se, but, I'm not really knowing how to word this. I think, like, just my point being, like, what are some of the things that we can empower people with the knowledge to watch out for? So one of the things, and I'll just say, like, this is the one that is triggering the question, that Kelli and I came across, is more recently we were listening to this lady who channeled some messages. It was absolutely beautiful, very empowering for both of us, you know, all of that. One of the things that she mentioned was all of these channels where they say for entertainment purposes only. And we had a couple of discussions around that now, right? Where it's a matter of, the way that the lady who was channeling these messages said it was that anyone putting that is just not taking responsibility. They're not, you know, and it was very like cut and dry. And my perspective personally was, I was taught to put that on any kind of a reading that I was doing or anything like that, because it was just like, that was what you were supposed to do. So if you hear someone saying like, anyone who puts these words is bad, that's not being discerning if you just follow that, right? What is discerning is being like, okay, that's something to watch out for. And when I see that, then I'm going to be extra careful and pay attention. How do I feel while I listen to this message? And is it aligned for me? Right. So it's not to say if somebody puts that on their readings, they are necessarily bad, evil, have negative, you know, anything. Like, it doesn't have to have a negative connotation. That may not be their intention at all. They may actually be taking extreme responsibility. I personally, if I put, like, when I do a reading for somebody, I put a lot of effort into that. I put a lot of effort into my energy, making sure that I'm nice and clear, that I'm an open channel, all of that kind of thing. But I was still putting for entertainment purposes only, right? And that was because I had literally been taught that. And so I think just knowing that, like, if you see that, it's like, okay, I'm going to pay attention. Like, has this person just been taught to put that, or are they putting that because they don't want to take responsibility for the messages they're putting out into the world, right? And
so
the discernment to know, like, it is important to take responsibility for the stuff that we're putting out into the world, right?
There's a question for you with that. Why were you taught that? Like, what was the premise behind that you were told?
That's a good question. I think it was like a covering your butt kind of a thing.
Okay.
Right.
I don't liability. Really... Like, you don't want someone coming and saying, oh, like, you told me in this reading that something about my medical or my health or something like that, and it went wrong or it didn't happen, or like, and then they can kind of come like at you in that way. So you put like a statement saying, you know, I'm not a substitute for medical advice or blah, 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 like that.
Yeah. And I think the really important piece was just to realize, like, instead of, that was, you know, that was the way I was taught, just as like, again, yeah, it's like covering your butt. But really the way that you want to do that is say, I am passing along these messages that I am channeling to the best of my ability. Please take what feels good for you, right? And leave the rest. And also trust your own interpretations. So like if something triggers another thought and takes you on a path that you need to be on, that's beautiful. But I take no responsibility for any actions that you take based on my interpretations, because they are interpretations only. And I think that that's like the biggest thing is like people can get really reliant on readers, on people who channel and stuff like that, and not lean into their own intuition, right? Not feel into their own. And so the reason for putting it, I think, was legitimate, but the actual words that were chosen were not great as far as communicating the reasoning why, and that people need to be trying to figure out their own messages, right? And I think like that for me, once I figured that out and was like, okay, if I were to just change that wording and say, like, please get your own messages here, right? Like I'm doing my best to channel. And I did love the point that this lady made that, you know, spirit is not for entertainment purposes. Like we're not, that was one of them that I was like, yeah, no, that's right. Like the message she was getting was like, hello, we're not here for your entertainment. We're trying to help. Right. Like, so it's not.
I think there's such a big piece here for me in the way I understand what's coming through and sharing advice. I personally do not think that any reading should be saying, do this. This needs to happen. And so the liability of like, oh, well, they followed my advice. I don't necessarily know that there should be any advice in readings. It's more looking at the energy that is currently there. What is happening right now that can be seen and felt, but you get to choose how to move forward in it and what to do with it. It's not that like fortune telling necessarily.
Agreed. There are people who read as if it's fortune telling, and those are the ones like you want to watch out for that. You don't actually want that. You want to be taking your own messages. But what I just want to say in response to that is like the people who will, because they have not been taught to take their own responsibility and lean into their own intuition, who will take your channeled messages as advice, even when you're not intending it as advice. That is the purpose of having that disclaimer statement, is like, yeah, this is not what that's meant for. Right. Absolutely. And yeah.
Well, I think that's something we should take on, right? Yeah. That's something, if that's like that actually feels like something that we need to find ways to find more clarity to add for people. Yeah. That it's not just like I'm sharing this and now you have to follow what this is.
Yeah, I think what Bree was saying was spot on. It's not like, so for me, like I do occasionally do like a collective reading or, you know, something like that on my YouTube channel. And I'm not giving predictive, or I'm not, mine are exactly what you said, Jess. They are the current energies for right now, and you take your own interpretation from them. I think what happens is some people take it at face value. They interpret it too much at face value, like, oh, this is now a prediction. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to me. And then they get too wrapped up in that rather than considering this is an energy for right now that you can step into and you can make your own decisions and be empowered from this reading. So I think, yes, you're absolutely right. Like we need to come up with some kind of better statements to sort of convey these are current energies. You always have, like, for me, I started writing kind of like, you always have the power to choose. You always have the power to make your own decisions. And you, like, you're a sovereign being, so you have the power to do all of those things. I'm just kind of bringing you these collective energies and giving you, you know, some insights as to certain different directions you can take or areas you can explore. So something like that, like just being more upfront about like you have the power. Like whoever's watching this reading, you have all the power. Like we don't have the power to decide what you do.
Yeah. And I think like Jess, I like the idea that like that's something that we should take on in a sense of like teaching people that but but I think really the key here is like, it's not so much watching out for the words that people put as their disclaimer as it is watching out for, are they telling you what to do? You don't want that. Right. Are they, is it like all doomsday predictions all the time? You don't want that. Right. And honestly, is it all always like, you're going to win the lottery? Amazing. Right? That's not real life. Real life has ups and downs. It is not all one thing. So if you find somebody that you're watching, that you're following, that you're learning from, and they're all one thing all the time, probably not great, right? That's probably a good sign that they're not really that tuned into what is actually coming from spirit. But I think just using, like, when you notice something like that, the verbiage, the whatever, that it's a trigger, just like the fear, just like the feeling of fear, to go, okay, what is this really? Do I need to pay attention? Do I need to, like, is this something that I should really be listening to? Is this something that's going to be empowering for me or disempowering? And again, that discernment of, is this helping me versus not, right? Is it helping me to feel like I have the capacity to handle my life, or is it making me feel like I have to rely on somebody outside of myself in order to be able to do that? And if that's the case, then that's probably not a very aligned person to be following, right? And that's when you need to use your discernment and say, this person's not for me, and be okay to walk away from it. And again, that doesn't mean that we need to start a smear campaign, because that person might be right for someone else, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then, also notice, like, if you are drawn to certain readers and they tend to be one particular way, start looking within you and see what's going on within you, because you're attracted to things that are like, it's that magnetic pull. And start asking yourself, is this something I want in my life? Is this the kind of thing? So not even specifically readers, like, what are you intaking and what are you looking for and reading and watching and doing in your life? And is this
books, movies, TV, everything.
Is this a feeling you want in your life? Because if that's what you're seeing on the outside, it's what you're creating on the inside, but it's also what's there. So how do you start making those shifts? And then the other thing that really came through was, I was like, why do people want to be told what to do? And it's because it's comfortable. We have been told our whole lives what to do. Go to school, go to college, get a job. Here is the book. Here are the steps. And we are so damn comfortable following that we come into spirituality and it's like, you get to choose. And we go, I have to choose. Just tell me. And it's like, no, I'm not going to tell you. You get to choose. And so it might feel comfortable to find someone who's going to tell you what and how to do, because then you don't have the responsibility. But let me tell you right now, if you do not take that responsibility, you will not take control of your life, and you will not fulfill your purpose, your passion, what you are here to do, if you keep outsourcing that responsibility. If you keep outsourcing that power outside of you, you will never get to the place where you will be able to create. You go, I want to create, I want to make, I want all of these things. And all life is asking of you right now is, okay, take responsibility and go. And you go, no, I don't want it. I want somebody to tell me how to do it. Somebody is telling you how to do it. You're doing it their way, and you are on their path. You are here for your path.
Mic drop.
Thank you, Source. Source is coming in hot, saying, take damn responsibility for your life.
I think that is a beautiful wrap up, actually, for this episode. I really do. I think that, like, that is exactly it. Take your power back, right? Mm-hmm. Find what's empowering, take your power back, take back control, in a very healthy way, not a controlling, like, we talk Jesus, take the wheel, right? Like we don't need to hold on super tight, but take back control over your own life by making your own choices. Exactly. And being that empowered, making those, not wanting someone to give you the answers. That is a scary thing. And it is also exactly what you need to do. And it's like, that was, I think, just such a perfect wrap up for this episode. So unless either of you ladies has something else that you want to add to that, that's fine.
I was just gonna
and
say, like, that goes so perfectly, like, with what I'm launching in my business right now. I'm not gonna promo it, but I just want to read what I put on my story today. It says, when you remove your self-imposed shackles, you find your sovereignty and freedom.
yes, and you
So
find your
exactly,
path.
like, goes
You
along with
find
that.
your path, right?
Yes.
That's just it. We don't want to be walking someone else's path. That's the whole point of stepping away from maybe organized religion or corporate America or colonial, you know, like whatever, all of that kind of stuff is finding your own path,
Yes.
right? And that is the path of the rose, spiraling inwards, the spiral of the rose. Look at that. She's even drawing it. Literally, it's that spiral inwards to find your path. So I love that. That's why we're here. And I think that is such a beautiful ending to this episode. Thank you, ladies, for doing this with me, for like, well, all of us doing it with each other. It's not just like my thing, whatever, but that was absolutely just like a pinnacle moment. I loved that, especially Jess on her soapbox. That was amazing. So
That was me. That was not me. That was very boxed in energy going, enough of this shit. Like, come on, people, step up.
yeah.
I love it.
It was really good. It was really good. All right, ladies. Thank you everyone who listened today. And hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, make sure you subscribe and share the podcast around so that we can get our message out to more people. And we will talk to you all next time.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like it and subscribe. And if you really loved it, we would love a 5-star review, which helps us reach more people with our message. Comment your thoughts on the episode below, or if you have any questions you'd like us to answer in a future episode. Talk to you next time.